let's move into the next key player on the offensive side of the ball, and that's Elijah Moore.
Elijah Moore is definitely he is another key part to this offense because we really saw him come onto his own during the um kind of towards like the middle part of the season where before he got injured and would miss the final few weeks of the season, he was one of the I think it was like from week 8 to week 13, he was like leading a multitude of stats in receiving categories, and he was very, very good. And I think he's kind of one of those receivers that kind of falls under the radar. I mean, not for Jets fans, of course, but for like NFL fans in general, because there was how good this receiver class was. Obviously, you got Jamar Chase. We also got Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, who's been very underrated as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Uh, Probably a few others that I'm forgetting, but like those are obviously the main ones that come to mind. And Elijah Moore kind of didn't have, at least for counting stats, didn't have those same stats because either he was injured a lot or he just wasn't. He wasn't great to start the year. He wasn't bad necessarily, but he was just average. But then he really turns it on during like the midway point in the year. Until he got injured, he was one of the better receivers statistically wise in the National Football League. And I think really kind of going into his year 2 when he's going to have a significantly better core around him with obviously who the Jets have drafted, who they've signed, who they're getting back from injury. I think he could really be insanely dangerous given his kind of versatility. He can play slot, he can play outside. His route running is amazing. He's got great feet, great good hands. I think his hands, they're not great, but they're solid. And I just think overall he should be a key cog in this offense, especially considering the chemistry really from day one he's had with Zach Wilson.
I have a conundrum with Elijah Moore, and it's nothing against him personally. I don't really have much against him. He looks to be a good receiver. His hands could do refining. His red zone ability can do refining. But other than that, I don't really think there's anything I can harp on to hate on him. But I just don't know where he's going to fit in the offense. If Corey Davis is going to be a boundary and Garrett Wilson's going to be a boundary, because they brought in 3 fantastic tight ends. And I just don't know where he fits. They're not going to be able to play a slot.
Well, here's the thing. But here's the thing. I'm just gonna go us off really quickly. But again, we got to make these a bit quicker. But I just think that really kind of the Jets are going to use a multitude of looks. I think that 1 and 2 is going to be Wilson and Moore. And then you're going to see a multitude of looks where you're going to see 1 tight end sets, 2 tight end sets, 2 running back sets, maybe even running back and a fullback set. The amount of looks that the Jets can use with this kind of personnel this year is dangerous. And I think Elijah Moore, though, he's going to be one of those guys who's going to be a fits all scheme because he is one of the most important players on this team. And I think he'll probably be ahead of Corey Davis. I think Garrett Wilson, I think by the end of the year, he won't because he is a great player. I'll talk about him in a bit. But I think the amount of looks the Jets can use, it's just going to be scary. I think they'll use 3 receiver low a lot. And I think he'll probably see the field most of the time.
My problem with that, though, is I just don't see Elijah Moore as being a great boundary wide receiver this season, or Z wide receiver.
He was good. He
had his one good game in garbage time against Indianapolis as a Z receiver or as an X receiver even. But I just don't think I don't think that's what he's suited for. I think as a slot receiver, he can build himself into a niche that he can become a top 10 at that spot in the league. And I think he can go into top 5 if he works that out. But I just don't see him as that boundary guy.
We'll see how I think he was actually very good. Like you saw him against Byron Jones. He absolutely kind of cooked him on the outside.
But that was in the slot.